Morning, friends. It's your friendly boat builder Rick back here in the Great White North, working on my 31.5 foot trawler in my backyard. Um, as you last saw, we did a little session on cardboard aided design and my handy dandy steering wheel here, and just trying to work out some of the ergonomics. And I realized fairly early on that the wheel has to come up. You'll probably have to sit a couple of inches above the leading edge of the dash panel here, but that's basically what I'm doing today. Is I'm going to figure out that. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with this corner so that my electrical panel will fit. And once I get that figured out, I'm actually going to bring the panel up and we'll cut a hole and stick it in and see how it looks like. Because I made that panel a long time ago, and of course, electrical technology has changed when I started, and I'll show you a diagram of the electrical system that I worked out 14 years ago. Lithium-ion phosphate batteries weren't even a thing back then, so I mean, advances in solar and boat electrical networks and LED lighting and all that stuff has all been a game changer. So I'm going to have to revisit that one of these days too. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some measurements and get the hot glue gun fired up again and see what we can come up with. Back in a minute. So this little extension here represents the amount that the helm pump will stick out past the leading edge of the helm pod. So it's approximately 3 inches. I think 3 inches. And so the helm pump itself will be recessed inside here, mounted to probably a metal frame. And as it was pointed out in some of the discussions on the Facebook groups, that I need to have access to the filler tube, which with my C-Star helm pump is on the front, so it's not an issue. It's not being buried underneath the console here or anything like that. So that's pretty easy. So I'm just going to throw the wheel on here. And, that's sort of the position that we worked out. My forearm is what I used is level, so my hand rests easily on top. And where I'll be sitting and standing, I think this is better. I've got a clear view of the entire, what will be the dash area and the engine gauges, the tachometer, and oil pressure, water temperature, all that kind of stuff will go here. I don't know if you can see over on this outboard side, there will be room for more gauges and ignition switch, a button for the glow plugs. Sorry, this is my first diesel engine, so I haven't quite got all the nomenclature down pat, and that sort of stuff will be easily mounted in here. My engine controls have to be moved a little more outboard. It's not a big deal, and somehow I've got to work a coffee mug holder in this whole thing. So This, folks, is my AC/DC distribution panel, and I designed and built this probably 12 or more years ago. And how this project actually started was an article in Powerboat magazine, I believe it was, where they posed the question, is it cheaper to build a panel than to buy a pre-made one? And it was an intriguing article, and there was a lot of pros and cons and all that stuff. And one long cold winter in Ontario, buried under 6 feet of snow, I decided I was going to give it a shot. So I designed the panel with a tool that was provided by the company that would eventually cut and engrave this panel, called Front Panel Express. And this was my first foray into things like that. And most of the switches and gauges and LEDs and breakers and all that stuff came from eBay. So even though a lot of the individual components were cheap or cheaper, I think I definitively proved that you cannot build your own panel cheaper than you can buy one. And again, going back at that point in time, Blue Sea didn't have their integrated modular systems and all that other kind of nice stuff, and they didn't have their online planning and design guide and all that kind of information. So this uses toggle switches. There's a break before make switch here for our switching between shore power and generator. This battery switch here allows me to choose which battery banks will power the DC side, and there will be the starting battery, and then there's the house bank, and there's also a cross connect for the two. 30 amp main breaker, voltmeter, DC volts, AC volts, resettable breakers, and I think I've covered most of the individual loads, and these can be changed with just labels that go over top. And there's also this switch here, which allows me to check the voltage of the particular bank that I'm hooked to, simply by choosing that switch there. This one here is for the infinite improbability drive, should I need to use it. Usually that will remain closed, that's why the security cover's on it. The one thing I did learn about designing panels is you have to pay as much or more attention to the back, the spacing, where all the switches go and the components and all that other kind of stuff. And it's pretty tight in here. I have a plastic divider which isolates the AC side from the DC side. That's pretty straightforward. These are all loads for the LEDs, which will come when the piece of equipment is turned on. We'll turn on the indicator lights for the various LEDs which are embedded in the panel. So I'm going to cut a little hole in there that the panel I just made in the dash, and we'll see if we can fit this in and see what it looks like. So silly me forgot I had lights in here, so if it looks a little brighter, I'll be a little smarter. A little smarter than I thought it was. Anyways, I've cut out my hole in this panel that I want the electrical panel to sit in, so I'm just going to sit it in there. Hopefully this carpet will hold it. There's a close-up of what it looks like. I think it looks okay. I've tried to place it in the panel with that angle that's out of the way of anyone walking by and hitting the switches. I originally envisioned this being rebate or recessed with a plastic door over top, but with this layout I don't think that's actually required. So from back here you can't even see it. That's the position of the wheel now. Could actually go a little to the right, but I kind of like it dead center. So I'm going to cut this one short. I've been looking at my stats, and the average viewing time for one of my videos is like 6 minutes and 18 seconds. So that's far less than I've been trying to keep them around 15 minutes, but apparently that's too much. People don't want to look at me and my ugly face working on a boat, playing with cardboard, and hopefully this winter we'll be able to turn this into actual cherry plywood and get things mounted, work out all the small details and stuff like that. And these custom parts take a long time, so I appreciate those that do hang in. I really appreciate the new subscribers that we've had come on board lately. It's really good. I think we're up to 562, which is phenomenal for me anyways. But I'd like to solicit your help in getting the word out, so give us a thumbs up and share us out on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and maybe we can spread the word and get a few more subscribers. So there you have it, folks. Thanks for looking in. I appreciate each and every one of you sticking with us. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.